Growing up in Massachusetts, I spent some time on the coast of Maine at a beachfront Unitarian Universalist camp and conference center, much like the Camp de Vanville Pines in the mountains of California. Ferry Beach, as it's called, held week-long summer camps for Unitarian Universalist families, children, teens, and adults. During the fall, winter, and spring, individual congregations would spend a week at Ferry Beach on retreat. The church that I grew up in went the first weekend in May every year. As a child and later as a teen, those congregational retreats were some of my most favorite moments as a young Unitarian Universalist. Something you may know or may not know is that in early May, the coast of Maine could be like spring, or it could be like summer, or it could be like winter. It could be warm and breezy, or it could be cold, wet, and rainy. On sunny days, the entire congregation would spread out all over the beach, kids and teens playing in the cold, cold water, adults scattered around talking with old friends and new. However, cold and rainy weekends found teens, kids, adults huddled inside around the fireplace, reading, strumming on guitars and auto harps, singing, playing card games, or just sitting quietly in community. Though those days of cold rain may have been disappointing after months of winter, those days introduced me to the sights and sound of the coast. For when the rain came and visibility was low, the foghorns blasted intermittently and the lighthouses flashed as their beacons of light spun around. Up and down the coast among the sharp and scraggly cliffs sat lighthouses waiting for the sun to set or the fog to roll in. When that happened, their keepers would climb steep, rickety, slippery steps, strike damp matches in the fierce wind, and light the beacon to warn ships away from the rocky shore, towards the deep channels and to the safety of the harbor and ports. Actually, it's all automated through computer programs, but you get the idea. I've been thinking about what it means to say that this congregation is a beacon of love and justice in the desert. Each week we say, together, we are a beacon in the desert. May its light lead the way to the sanctuary of love, acceptance, and justice, where we strive for personal and societal transformation. I don't know about you, but for the last 4.5 years since I arrived here, I have thought that the beacon that we gather together was meant to draw fellow seekers to this particular sanctuary of love, acceptance, and justice. Sort of the way that I imagine that the Luxor draws people to its flashy pyramid and various offerings, or the way that porch lights attract moths. But the beacon in a lighthouse is not an invitation to come to the rocky cliff above which the lighthouse sits. The beacon shows the way to the harbor, safe harbor, which is not here, where the beacon is located, but there, where the beacon shines. We might want to change our words to more clearly say what we mean. We might want to remove the part where we say, this sanctuary. Like this. Together, we are a beacon in the desert. May its light lead the way to love, acceptance, and justice, where we strive for personal and societal transformation. May this beacon's light lead the way to love, acceptance, and justice. When someone comes to this place, to this religious community, this sanctuary, this beacon in the desert, it is not the end of a journey. It is not the destination. This is not the place that you are seeking. This is just one of many places that points us towards where we want to go, When any individual or family comes to this congregation, it is the continuation of the journey through life towards wholeness, towards love, towards acceptance, and towards justice. Please understand, I am not suggesting that you and your family should leave. I am suggesting that you stay and invite your friends, and together, metaphorically, spiritually, politically, we will journey together through the deep channels to safe harbor. From our adapted responsive reading, Martin Luther King states, "This is where we are," and then asks, "Where do we go from here?" Where do we go from here? I do not know the full context from which this reading was taken, but I imagine that Dr. King was suggesting that we journey to and strive for beloved community. That we journey to and strive for the kingdom of God here on earth, to safe harbor, to the world the way it should be, to the place where the beacon points, to sanctuaries of love and justice. To a time when we no longer need to hang a banner that declares that Black Lives Matter, because the communities, the nations, and the social systems in which we live will value Black, brown, trans, queer, and disabled bodies and lives, and where each human being will be infinitely precious. Together we will journey to that time and that place where the earth upon which we live is seen not as property to own and mine for wealth and greed, but as the beautiful place with beings with whom we cohabitate. The beloved community, the world the way it should be. I think every one of us knows of that place, though we dream about it from different social locations. Some of us wonder how we will care for ourselves and loved ones when we become older and less strong. We might wonder how we can afford to move into living arrangements with care providers. Some wonder about their next paycheck or social security check. Some may watch their grown children struggle with addiction, or finding a stable home, or finding a loving and caring partner. Some of us may dream of accessible public transportation, accessible health care, education, affordable housing, or our very next meal. Beloved community may look different to each one of us, but we must strive for it together. When I say strive, I really mean fight. It will take serious effort to create the beloved community. No one with power is going to create the beloved community because any one of us say, hey, we want and need the world to be a better place for everyone. We must organize ourselves, build power among and within all of us, for it will take sustained effort to follow the beacon towards beloved community and safe harbor. Religious community is one of the few places in our lives where we learn how to journey and fight for the beloved community. Here, we practice how to be kind and compassionate. Here, we learn how to organize to build power among the people in order to create societal transformation. It is within religious community that we take time to rest and breathe and regenerate and meet others on the journey. It is within religious community that we are reminded that we are not alone. This congregation is working through a process to help us figure out where we are going and where we are called to go. All members and friends and those who are newer and like what you have found here are welcome to participate in the focus groups. If you would like to participate but not sure how, please come see me after the worship service and I'll get you connected. The questions that we are exploring together are meant to help the congregation name where we are going. The questions help us to understand where the beacon points to. The questions are to help this congregation figure out what our purpose and reason for existing is. The questions are less about what each one of us wants personally in our lives or thinks we could do in Las Vegas. The questions are asking us what we must do as Unitarian Universalists. How are our values, principles calling to live in the world? Who is God calling us to be? The answers to these questions must come from you, the congregation. In Unitarian Universalist congregations, you are the ones who decide what the purpose of this religious community is. A distant church hierarchy does not provide answers, though they may make some suggestions. In this church, your religious leader does not provide the answers. Your religious leader asks, how are we doing on the journey? Do you think we're there yet? What about those folks over there? Are they a beloved community? How do you feel about those folks not having access to safe harbor? Your religious leader asks the questions and holds a mirror up for you to better see yourselves. Better to see yourselves for yourselves that we have not yet reached safe harbor, but the beacon points the way. Will we follow the beacon to where it points? You tell me.